What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel for this really quick conversation about the Merrifields. So, as we've all heard by now, Garrick Merrifield um, was arrested this past Monday. As I'm doing this video, today is Wednesday. We found out that he was arrested this past Monday. He was released on Tuesday. He bonded out on Tuesday for domestic violence. Allegedly, the victim is his second wife, Lorena. So I just saw right now before I started recording this article that just popped up on TMZ, and he was arrested for domestic violence. He was also charged with phone obstruction, which is preventing a victim from calling 911. And according to Lorena, she told police that Garrick has snatched her phone during a heated argument. He refused to allow her to contact her family in Brazil. So I guess they're having a really bad fight, a bad argument. She wanted to call her family in Brazil because she has nobody here. All she has are these strangers that she's living with, are practically strangers, because I don't exactly know how long they've known Lorena, like exactly when they met her in Brazil, but these people don't know each other very well. And so now she's here in the United States. She just got married to Garrick in sometime in 2024. They just had a baby July of this year, 2025. Garrick lives with her and also with his first wife, Danielle, and Garrick and Danielle's three children, including Lorena's baby. So they all live together in this one house, and they're featured on Seeking Sister Wife, which is a show that I review, which is a show that has been coming on for I don't know how many years. I think they're on season 6 right now. And of course, appearances are deceiving, but when it comes to the Merrifields, if you watch the show, you know that there's tension in that house. You can tell that there's some type of tension in that home, because it's quite obvious that Garrick's first wife, Danielle, that she's not necessarily comfortable with this whole sister wife journey that they're on. She tries to hide it, she tries to mask it, but you can tell that underneath the surface, it's not sitting right with her. And instead of taking out her frustration where she needs to take it out on, which is on Garrick, because he's the one that's really pushing this whole plural marriage or polygamous lifestyle, she's like passive aggressively taking out her frustrations on the potential wives. Lorena is the third person that technically the fourth, because there was someone else, but they never want to mention the African American woman who was a nurse or a student nurse. They never want to mention her for some reason. It's always mentioned that they started their whole sister wife journey with Roberta, who was from Brazil, I think. Then it didn't work out with Roberta. It turned out that, they accused Roberta of just being after their money. I've never heard Roberta's side of the story. Now that all of this has come out, who knows what the real reason is why it didn't work out with Roberta. But according to the Maryfields, it didn't work out with their first potential sister wife, Roberta, because they found out that she was just after their money. It didn't work out with the second potential sister wife, Natalia, who was also from Brazil, because she wasn't in agreement with them adding more sister wives. So now we are with Lorena. And between Roberta and Natalia, they were in America, and they found a potential sister wife in California. I think she was in California. She was African American. She was a nursing student, I think, and also a nurse or something. I don't remember exactly what she did, but that didn't work out either, because she wasn't in agreement with having to do a lot of, from what I can remember, she wasn't in agreement with having to do a lot of household chores when she was going to be so busy with going to school and also working. It didn't work out with her. Then it was Natalia. It didn't work out with her. And then they finally hit the jackpot with Lorena. So Lorena, it worked out. She ended up coming to the United States. Garrick ended up marrying her. And on the show, like I said, they try to present this image that everything is fine, they're getting along, everybody loves everybody, but you know that his wife, Danielle, who he divorced so that he could marry a potential sister wife to help them come into the country on a marriage visa or a fiance visa. You can tell that his wife, his first wife, Danielle, who's technically his ex wife, you can tell that she's really not feeling this whole sister wife thing. And so she's passively aggressively taking it out on these potential sister wives where she acts like, oh, they're my sisters and we're bonding and everything is so wonderful, but it's not. And it seems like to me, Danielle is afraid to tell her husband or to, like I said, take out her frustrations with this whole process on her husband because her husband seems to be very dominant and very controlling. And instead, she will passively aggressively, like I feel like I don't want to mistreat, not necessarily mistreat, I guess, act kind of slick shady with the potential sister wives. And it's quite obvious. I'm sorry, I got my mic. It's quite obvious to me that she wasn't really that happy with adding Lorena to their family. Now, Lorena is here. She doesn't speak English. Her primary language is Portuguese. There's a huge language barrier. On the show, there was on one particular episode, there was a scene where they were having a meeting amongst the three of them, and Garrick and Danielle were carrying on like on a private conversation. Lorena was sitting right there at the table with them, but Garrick and Danielle were having a conversation in English, which Lorena couldn't understand, which left her completely out. And they weren't using their translators to help her understand what they were talking about amongst themselves. And so Lorena felt very left out. And this is supposed to be a family environment. She's supposed to be this man's, at the time, she was supposed to be his fiance. You want her to feel as included as possible, but for them to carry on the conversation in English, not even bothering to translate for her through the Google Translate or whatever device they use, they just completely left her out. And I felt so bad for her in that moment because it was like, why would y'all do that? Y'all are supposed to make her feel welcomed and y'all are supposed to make her feel included. But instead, y'all are purposely, and in my opinion, it was Danielle who was really trying to make Lorena feel excluded. Anywho, let's jump to the issue at hand. So like I said, Garrick was arrested this past Monday. Today is Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. He was arrested for domestic violence, misdemeanor, not felony, misdemeanor. He was also charged with phone obstruction, like I said before, which is preventing a victim from calling 911. I'm going to reiterate what I said and try to move along here. So Lorena told police that Garrick had snatched the phone from her during a heated argument. He was refusing to give the phone back to her so that she could contact her family in Brazil. So I guess he knew that she wanted to call her family, let her family know what the hell was going on in that house. Garrett refused to give her back her phone. So she wanted to call the police, but she couldn't. He threatened to call ICE on her, which is so crazy to me because she's here legally. And this is supposed to be your wife, the mother of your child, and you're threatening to get her deported for what reason when she's here legally? Unless that's what ICE does, where they will deport people who are here legally. Maybe that's what they do. But that's just crazy work to me that they worked so hard to get her here, not specifically for Lorena, but just for the process in general. He divorces his wife in order to marry a foreigner to ease the process of bringing them to the United States, because I guess it's easier and quicker probably to do it on a fiance visa or on a marriage visa than it would be any other method. You divorce your wife so you can marry a foreign woman, so you can bring the foreign woman here to live with you, and then you're going to turn around and call ICE on said woman. Not specifically like they didn't know at the time that they got the divorce that he was going to be marrying Lorena, but to divorce your wife because you know that you want to marry a foreign woman. And now she's here legally through your your process of doing it. You're the one that applied for all the immigration paperwork. You filled out all the immigration stuff. This was featured on the show as well, of them trying to get married and do the immigration process, because the issue was whether or not they were going to do a prenuptial agreement, because there was a delay in getting their prenuptial agreement done because they needed to have it translated through a certified translator, so that Lorena could know what she was signing, and for it to be filed, I guess, with the court, for it to be like a legal document, it had to be translated through a certified translator, and it had to have like an official whatever that's needed. And that took a while, so they kind of delayed the process. I mean, it was like a big thing to do everything legally. And now you're going to threaten to call ICE on her. That's just very strange to me. So Lorena told law enforcement that she was terrified because she isn't familiar with the laws here in the United States. Like I said, she's here legally on a visa. So what she did, because she couldn't use her phone because Garrick was keeping her phone from her, she decides to get on the internet to find out how to contact law enforcement. Okay, that's how like desperate she was to get help, to get some type of assistance without her phone. So she's on the internet, I guess, doing Google searches or whatever on how to contact law enforcement if you don't have a phone. And Garrick turns off the Wi-Fi. He shuts the Wi-Fi off because he doesn't want her to have access to the computer. Lorena said he must have known what she was trying to do. So then he turns off the Wi-Fi. Like, what is going on in that house? This is like imprisonment. This is clearly abuse. Like, what is happening in this household where you don't want her to contact her family? You don't want her to contact her. You don't want her to contact law enforcement. And where the hell is Danielle in all of this? What role is she playing in all of this? So she's doing a Google search on how to contact law enforcement. He turns off the Wi-Fi, and Lorena did not want him arrested. I guess when the police showed up, she didn't want him arrested, but the police must have seen enough evidence to still take him into custody, and therefore he was arrested. He was charged, and he bonded out the very next day. And at the hearing, whatever hearing it was, when he was in the orange jumpsuit, evidently Lorena was there as well, because there was a Portuguese translator at that particular hearing. And that's how everybody suspected that Lorena must have been the victim, because there was a Portuguese translator at whatever hearing that was. I don't know if it was a bond hearing or I don't know what it was. So it is crazy. And the fact that she didn't even want him arrested, probably because she was scared that maybe she would also be in trouble, or that maybe that she would be deported once law enforcement starts digging around and finding out, who are you, and, how are you here, or whatever. So it just breaks my heart, because like, we watch this family on television, and I'm not saying that I can only speak for myself. I'm not saying that I'm their biggest fan, but you're watching them go through this process. You're hoping that everything is what it seems, that they really want to welcome her into their home and into their family, and they're not abusing her or taking advantage of her. And by the way, also, they have completely taken off any content, images, photos, videos that they've done with Lorena on their social media. I think for Danielle, I don't know if it's Danielle and Garrick or just Danielle, they do have to. I think they're contractually obligated to leave up the promo video or a promo picture for their show, Seeking Sister Wife on TLC. That is still there, but I think that's the only thing that's still there that makes any reference to Lorena. So not only are they like abusing this woman, or Garrick is, we don't know what role Danielle is playing in any of this. Not only is Garrick like, entrapping her or imprisoning her in her own home and whatever he's doing to her, they've also have like erased her from their social media, like she doesn't even exist. Like, this woman, like, you don't have a whole child with her, like she doesn't even exist. It's just weird to me. And I know that when they did their announcement on TLC, on the TLC social media platforms, when they did their announcement of their baby, there was a video that they did on I saw it on the TLC TikTok. So Garrick is holding the baby. I think Lorena was holding the baby, but I don't know. It didn't sit right when I saw Danielle hold the baby. And I understand that this is supposed to be like a plural family and the children belong to everybody. It's not just my child or your child. The women have to mother all of the children. I get that. But now when you're looking, we're in light of all of this, and you're thinking about what I'm thinking about that video where Danielle was holding Lorena's baby, like that doesn't really sit right with me anymore. And it makes me wonder, were they trying to get her deported and keep the baby here, like to separate a mother from her child? It's just so bizarre. And I think that for this to come out that Garrick is this way, where he's trying to um keep her from calling her family, keeping her from calling police, turning off her Wi-Fi. And when he's exhibiting this type of very controlling, abusive behavior, you know that this is what Danielle has experienced as well. I just refuse to believe that it's only to Lorena. I just refuse to believe that. And also, like I said, they said that with Roberta, their first potential sister wife, that they felt like she was just after their money because they were sending her a lot of money to take care of her and her mother, because her mother, I think, was going through an illness at the time. And so they were sending money to Roberta for herself to live on, and I think also for her mom. And they broke it off because they said that she was just using them for money. But hey, I would love to hear Roberta's side of the story and Natalia's side of the story. Um, I'm surprised that we even got this much, and it's because a police report had to be made. So now we have a little bit more information on what led up to Garrick's arrest. But if it wasn't for this, if she wasn't trying to call law enforcement, if she just decided to suffer in silence, nobody would have known that she was going through this. Nobody would have known. And what argument could be so bad that you want to take a phone away from someone? Their only means of communicating with, she can't just hop in a car and drive off. She's stuck there with these people. You know what I mean? She's actually stuck there with these people. I don't know. It's just a very sad situation. It's a really sad situation. And I have a feeling that, the Merrifields are done with TLC, or TLC is done with the Merrifields. We will not be seeing them anymore after all of this. And it also kind of breaks my heart that she didn't want him arrested, that after all of this that they put her through, she still was feeling some type of, sympathy for him. And she didn't even want him arrested. But law enforcement saw enough of something where they felt like they had grounds to arrest him and that it was better to arrest him. And I also had seen somewhere, I made a comment on some social media platform saying that in that particular state, if you get arrested for domestic violence, like automatically you have to stay away from your home for 10 days or something. I don't know. So shout out to the person in my comments who brought this to my attention. And then when I Googled it, there wasn't much. This was happening like late last night. There wasn't much information. And then late last night, also TMZ posted the article, and it was very like bare bones, just, reality TV personality or reality TV star Garrick Merrifield arrested for domestic violence. It didn't say who the victim was, didn't say what happened. But today, right before I pushed record, literally right before I pushed record, the TMZ article came out saying that there was an argument. She wanted to call her family. He took the phone away from her. So she ends up something, I don't know what would cause her to want to call law enforcement. So she couldn't call law enforcement when he refused to give her the phone. So she goes on the computer to find out a way to contact law enforcement without having to use a phone. And because I'm pretty sure there's a way to do it through the internet. And when he found out that she was doing that, he turned off the Wi-Fi. Law enforcement still showed up. She didn't want him arrested. They still arrested him. And he went to jail. He bonded out the very next day. TMZ has tried to reach out to him, as I'm pretty sure a lot of other outlets, but TMZ said there's been no response from Garrick. Obviously, he's probably already lawyered up. Well, I don't know if he's lawyered up because he wanted to do the prenup himself. He didn't want to even hire an attorney to do the prenuptial agreement, which is a very complicated document that had to be translated by an official translator and all this and that. And he still didn't want to hire an attorney. So I don't know if he's going to be representing himself in this criminal case or if he's going to have the sense to hire an attorney. I don't know. And like I said, I want to know, what is Danielle's role in all of this. I'm not putting any blame on her because we don't know exactly what happened. But like I said, if you watch the show, you will know that Danielle, the first wife, had been struggling a lot with this journey of finding a sister wife. And she had said on the show that um, she's her husband Garrick told her that God told him to get a sister wife, or to get sister wives, to add on to his family with additional wives, that God had told him this. And so she's going along with it because in her mind, this is what God led him to do. So she's going to follow. Uh, this is what she believes. I mean, to me, it sounds like, hogwash, but this is what she believes. And that's why she's in this journey. But you can tell that she's doing this reluctantly because she's always having crash outs. She's always having a breakdown whenever her husband reaches a certain milestone with his potential sister wife. When, as he gets closer to his sister wife, or to his additional potential wives, or whatever you want to call it, as he gets closer to these other women in the relationship process, she starts losing her mind. Okay, for example, when him and Lorena got married, she had a huge crash out in front of the courthouse because they had a courthouse wedding. She had a huge crash out in front of the courthouse, trying to minimize Lorena and Garrick's relationship, and say that it was just a piece of paper. It was just, a legality that has to be done for Lorena to stay here. Like trying to make it seem like their relationship or their marriage has nothing to do with love, but it's just a legality that needs to be done, and that her relationship with Garrick is still intact, even though he's marrying someone else. It shouldn't change what she has with Garrick. She has been ride or die with this man for a very long time, and Danielle does seem like the kind of person that, if there is, I'm not saying that there is, but if, like a big fat capital if there is any type of DV issues between Garrick and Danielle, Danielle seems like the kind of person who would be silent about it, because she's all about, stand by your man, follow your man. Your man is the leader of the household. You do as he says. She's very much like that. So who knows if she suffered the same thing but has kept silent? Who knows if she's inflicting any type of um, for lack of a better word, abuse on the sister wives, because she's struggling with accepting another woman into her home, into her husband's bed, etc. So yeah, we'll see if any more information comes out and see where all of this goes. But yeah, prayers for Lorena and her baby. Thank you so much for joining me on your way out. Please do not forget to rate the video if you like this content, subscribe to my channel, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.